So let's take a look at some of the operators that exist in Java. And an operator basically is just something that goes in between two variables or two things inside of Java statement. And a good way to think about this is we already do this in arithmetic, in any kind of math. We already have operators that we use to add numbers together. It's the same concept here. In Java, in fact, we have math operators. And I'm going to go down this list. I haven't included all the operators here. I have just included a lot of the basic ones. So this is not all the operators that exist, but it's the ones that are the most basic for someone learning Java. You are not going to need to know every single thing. I'm trying to reduce this set down. So the math operators, you can see here, these are the basic ones that you are probably already familiar with. Subtraction, if you use a subtraction operator, you can say 3 minus 2. And then the response that's going to come out is going to be 1. Same thing with plus. You have a multiplication. If we go down the line here, you will see there is two division operators. One of them is a whole number division, and the other one is called the modular or modulus. And what this does is if you take, for example, 5 and use the regular division sign, the slash, divided by 2, the result is going to be 2, because it's only going to give you whole numbers. It's so that you are not having something that was a whole number type and converting it to a decimal. That is, if you are working with whole numbers, if you are working with a decimal type and you do the regular division, it's going to give you a decimal number. But if you are working with integers or whole numbers, it's only going to give you a whole number back. And that's why that second modulus operand exists. That operator, it looks like a percent sign. If you said 5 mod 2 or 5 divide 2 using that operator, it's going to give you back the remainder, which is going to be 1. So a little bit confusing if you are not familiar with the concept, but it's basically the one gives you back the whole numbers that go in, and then the second one, the modular one, gives you back whatever the remainder would be if you are doing long division and you have got a remainder. That's the value. Next down the line, you see this weird plus plus and minus minus. All these are called increment and decrement operators. And if you put this at the end of a variable or a statement, it will make it so that that variable gets incremented. So if you had a variable x that was equal to 1, and then you did a plus plus, it's now going to be equal to 2. And if you did minus minus, it will be equal to 0. So it's just basically a shorthand way of incrementing or assigning that variable, whatever it was, plus another, or what it was, minus another. And there is a version of this where you can do this before or after a variable. And we are not going to get into the specifics of that right now, but just to know you have that ability. So the next set of operators is assignment operators, and we have already seen some of this in usage. We already used an assignment operator to assign a value when we said int x equals 3. We used this equal operator, and that allowed us to assign a value to a variable. This is how we give a variable a value, and then you have all these weird looking assignment operators. You have a plus equal, a minus equal, a multiplication equal. All this is another shorthand, and this is a shorthand for saying take my value and then assign it to whatever I have put on the right hand side of this operator, plus whatever it was, or minus whatever it was, or multiply it by whatever it is. And so this is just a shorthand. We can write out the plus operator, for example, the plus equal, if we said x plus equal 3 is going to be whatever its value was plus 3. So we can rewrite that as x equals x plus 3. It's just a shorthand, but we have all these operators for each one of the corresponding math operators. Next is relational operators, and these operators are going to compare two things. And as we get into conditional statements, then this is going to make more sense to you. But for now, we are just going to overview what these operators are. What it basically lets you do is to evaluate whether two different numbers are variables or types, and see is one greater or less than the other. Are they equal or are they not equal? And this is going to be important when you want to choose something. When you want to say, if this number is greater than the other one, then I want to do this. Or if this number is less than the other one, then let's stop this loop. So you can see that this probably already makes sense here. A lot of these, you have a greater than symbol, a less than symbol, greater than or equal to. This is true if it's greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, and then this equal. This is true equal, and the reason why this exists in Java is so that assignment doesn't get confused. So when you see an equal, it's actually asking the question, are these two equal, rather than saying I want to assign this value. And then the last one is not equal, and this is asking whether or not these two values are not equal. It's true if it's not equal. It's the opposite of the equal. Finally, we have logical operators, and once again, we will go through a little bit of an example of this, but you have your and, or in the not. And the first one, the 2 ampersands, is an and, and it works just like logic. If you are taking a logic class or you are familiar with logic statements, truth tables is the exact same concept here. If you have a variable that's equal to true and you apply an and to it, or an and to a variable that is also equal to true, the result is true. If you had a variable that was equal to true and you say and another variable that was equal to false, is going to be equal to false, because they both, everything has to be true for an and statement. The or, either one can be true. So if you had a variable that's equal to true, put the or in between. And you had another variable that's equal to false, the result is going to be true. The only way an or is not going to be true is if both sides are false. And then the not just reverse whatever the value is of a variable. If you had a variable that was equal to true and you put a not in front of it, it would now be equal to false. If you had a variable that was equal to false and you put a not in front of it, it will be equal to true. And these apply only to Boolean types of variables, which is a Boolean type is one that can be either true or false.